Hi everyone, this is Professor Lane, and I wanted to go through in this video with you and explain the case study project and presentation that you're going to prepare as a group in this section of IST 110. And so what I've done is broken the actual project down into 4 smaller pieces, and that way it makes it more manageable when we put things in chunks, and it really does keep you on task in terms of completing the assignment and doing a better job because you're not doing everything the last minute. That being said, what we see right now is the module within Canvas. All right, so what I want to do is step through each of these, but just real briefly, this is going to be an overview page that's simply going to list everything that we see here just to give you an overview. I'll take more time, and on this particular page, we'll talk about the requirements and the guidelines. This particular page is where you're going to see the links to the actual case study podcast, and I'll talk more about that again also when we get to that page itself. What I wanted to highlight is each of the 4 milestones. So first you will have your first milestone. You're going to be gathering all of your information and your sources outside of the actual podcast, which is the basis for the case study analysis. So you're going to do additional research, and that's what milestone 1 is all about. Now you're going to do this as a team, and you're going to submit one file. One person will be designated to submit that file for the team, and I can do that when I set up the actual groups. The groups have not been set up yet, but I will do that. Now, once you've completed this particular task, I'm then asking you guys to go through and tell me individually. This is an individual, the log is an individual activity where you will go in and tell me what you did in terms of making that particular activity a success. All right, so I want to know what your contributions were to that. Then the following week, we are going to do the timeline. All right, so I've given, again, 1 week to complete this particular assignment. And again, you need to find time as a team. You will need to figure out when you will be able to meet with each other online, and you can decide if you want to use Google Groups. You can use the collaboration tool, which will use Microsoft. You can use Microsoft Teams because you have access to that as well. So there are many tools. There are no excuses for you guys not to be able to meet with each other. It's really going to be a matter of you finding the time and being flexible and accommodating when you are meeting with your team. Okay, so that being said, again, you're going to be creating a timeline. This is not going to be something you're going to find on the internet and just paste it. You are going to be building this. So someone who within the team might have some skills, and they might step up and say, hey, I can build this. I can watch these videos, and I will do that. And you, again, within the team, you can make that decision. Again, once you've submitted that, one person will submit the actual JPEG, or actually I want it as a PNG file. I'll just talk about that when we look at this. And then once you're done that, again, you're going to say who did what and what contributions you did for that particular activity. And then we move on to the following week where you create an outline. I give you a template. Again, I'll talk more about that when we look at that. Once you've completed the outline, again, you'll complete an individual log, and then the same thing for the presentation. Now, for the presentation, I give you 2 weeks to work on this because I want you to build a really good presentation. I want this to be appealing. I want it to be visually appealing, aesthetically appealing. I want you to make sure that everyone does some work, all right? And then again, one person will submit that file, all right? And then again, you will do a contribution log stating what you did to make that assignment as best as it can be. Then at the very, very end, you're going to do a self-reflection, and you will answer questions collectively about the actual project experience and how difficult, sometimes it can be working in as a team, and it doesn't always work out maybe the way that we would like it to, but it's a learning experience. And within the way our world is today, we work in teams. And so this is a really good test, really, to see how well you work in a team and where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and how we can just make them better. All right, so let's go through. I'm going to go ahead and click on our first tab. And as I mentioned, this is just a list of what the actual module covers. Now on the next page, this is where we get the meat and bones for this project, right? And so very, very top, I can't stress enough, throughout the first part of the semester, every week you've been doing a case study, and we talk about how technology solves human problems. And so, and they make life easier for us, all the technology that we have. And so what you're going to do is you're going to dive deeper, all right, into, we've just been skimming the surface, talking about the human problems and some obstacles, and how life is better. We're going to dig a little deeper and with that. So in that first project here, part, as I mentioned, we're going to find sources, right? And you're going to find reputable, reliable, that sources that are going to help you complete the task. The timeline, the outline, the presentation, and again, these are all of the components. These at the top, the first four that we see at the top, these are performed as a team, all right? And then the ones down below are formed individually, all right? So all of these activities here go into that big chunk of the presentation in terms of how your overall assessment, right? You can see the point allotment, 20, 20, 30, and 50. Each of these are 10. The final one is 5. All right, so let's look at each one of these. First, this is where you're either going to be assigned Instacart, Canva, Affirm, PayPal, Wayfair, Audible, WordPress, or DoorDash. These are the options, and depending upon the number of students that we have, will determine if there are 3 students to a team or 2 students to a team. And I have not gotten that far yet, but you will find that on the People tab. Real quick, I'm going to open up that People tab, and under Project Groups, you might see another project under here. Let's go to Project Groups. You can see these are all students in here. You'll see the groups either over here or maybe in a new tab, because these have not been established yet. All right, but that's where you're going to find who your people are. All right, I'm going to go back to the case study. All right, and whoops, wrong one. Let's go back over here, and we will forward through to the next tab. All right, so the first part is getting some additional sources outside of the initial podcast. All right, so you're going to find, from the case study abstract, you can certainly grab all this from the podcast itself, but you can certainly add extra information. You want to find some information about the entrepreneur, the founders, if there's more than one. You'll want to find some additional information, right? So you're going to be building a timeline of events, all right? And so it's about the technology, not the entrepreneur, all right? So, and you're going to need this for the next milestone. So you want to make sure that you have solid events that will be useful for you to complete this task, right? And think about, what's important, and you might need to weed out. You will need to find, as you're going to learn for that timeline, a minimum of 8 events on the timeline. You might have more, right? And so that will, but I want to see a minimum of 8. Next, you're going to figure out or discuss how the technology helps solve the problems in our daily lives and our work, all right? and some of them are, more impactful than others, but at the end of the day, they do make our life easier. Everyone has obstacles, all right? We will learn that each of these founders and entrepreneurs came upon some roadblocks, and I'm asking you to identify a minimum of 2 of those. So there might be more, but you can decide which 2 that you would like to discuss. And so I want the obstacles that have to do with the actual building of in their building phases, right? Getting started, not so much about their personal lives. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the obstacles that they encountered as they were building whatever it is that they were building, whether it was a website, whether it is an app, all right? And then I want to know how it was resolved, all right? So let me, we want to know what was the obstacle and how did they overcome that. The next one we want to talk about is before and after, right? So what was life before having this technology? What did we do? How did we accomplish that task? And now that we have it, we understand all the benefits, but you will let us know what that is. We're also going to talk about who is the competition, because in the early days, many of these, there wasn't a competition, and that's what made it so successful. But since these have become, that now that they're out there, competitors have entered the market. So who are they? Who are their competitors? And then finally, we're going to take a look at where they are today, the current status. So I want to know statistics. I'd like, maybe number of users. Maybe they're on the stock exchange. So what has happened with COVID? So there's many things that you can talk about, and you're not limited to any one of those, but anything that you think that is useful in talking about where they are today in where we are. We are in 2023, so things have gone up and down these past few years. Right. So as you are building this, for each of these, you want to have 2 sources. Right. Now, sometimes you might find one that could work with another one. I want a minimum of 2 sources to be applied to more than one topic. So you can't use the same source more than 2 times. So find something else, right? Because there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of garbage out there. There's a lot of inaccurate information out there. Make sure your sources are relevant. Make sure they are reliable. Fact check your sources. All right. Also make sure that you include the case study that you have been assigned, as well as the team members with your submission. And remember, because this is a group project, only one person needs to submit this. And I do have a rubric for all of these. So if you scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see the rubric and what the expectations are, right? So if you don't meet the full mark, then you're going to get somewhere in between 0 and 8. I'm going to edit this rubric to add another category in here. So you might see this look a little different. All right. So once you've completed milestone 1, now individually, you're going to go in and tell me what contributions that you did to completing this task. I expect this to be a short paragraph, and I expect proper grammar and writing. All right. This is a journal entry of some type of sort, and so you can also see that I'm looking for quality of the reflection, right? So, and you can see if you didn't use proper grammar, you didn't write incomplete sentences, then you're going to fall into that category, okay? If it seemed really rushed, or you're not going to be penalized for maybe being honest and saying, I didn't do a whole lot because of XYZ, or I was at the meeting, but so-and-so said that they would do XYZ, or so just be honest, okay, for these contribution logs, okay, because it will make you think about what it is that you need to do for the next time, okay. All right, so we move on to the next one. So the next topic is the analysis. All right, so here you're going to be building, for the analysis is going to be the timeline. All right, so as I mentioned, I want a minimum of 8 relevant events. All right, it's going to begin with its launch. All right, so we want to remember that when it was actually launched, and then we're looking at the present day. And you will find that depending upon the technology, you're going to have to weed through some of those to figure out which ones are most relevant. You can build this using Microsoft Word, you can build this using Adobe Illustrator or any other type of drawing software that you are familiar with. So I'd like you to be creative. I have given you a few YouTube videos. You can use these, you could use something else. But you could easily watch these, and you can duplicate that with your events. Make sure that you save it as a .png file, because you must submit that as a PNG file. All right, so that is very, very important. Again, one member is going to submit this, and we have the timeline rubric down below. Again, after you complete this, let me know what your contributions are. I need to add that rubric, so I will be doing that for this. So you will see the rubric appear for each of the contribution logs. I haven't done that for that. We move on to the third milestone, which is building the outline. I have given you a template. You will see in the template, as you look at this, you want to tell me the name of the technology that you are doing your case study on, and then also listing your members. You can see in here the abstract. This is about how much text I expect you to write. All right, so as you can see in here, the timeline of events, I would just paste your timeline in there as the image. So you have that image, or you can say, you can even put in there, image will be, we have created an image, blah, blah, blah. All right. If you want to create any type of image for yours, what I will do for you is show you, I'm going to build one for the LinkedIn the LinkedIn case study, which is our very first case study. I will build that for you guys, and I will include that as an example. So you'll see some of the compared to what you're looking at in my video that I am talking about right now. I'm going to include that. So you'll see a link of an example of something that I would expect. All right. If I don't have any text, I'm just going to put in some dummy text in there. But like for the timeline, or what I built for LinkedIn, for that presentation of how I showed the obstacles and the resolutions, or maybe the competition, just showing. I don't want to list, so just making it more creative for the presentation part. But in here, I want you to write about it. All right, I want you to write about it here. So let's move on. Let me close this out so you have an idea. For compiling your resources, make sure they are in APA. All right, so I've given you some writing guidelines. And again, you can see in here, what am I looking for? All right, and so these are the criteria within the rubric. All right, so this is going to be a written report, but again, you get an idea for about how much text I'm looking for. A couple paragraphs. We move on again. Let's do another contribution log. We move on to the final piece, which is the presentation. And so you can see in here, you should have roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 slides in all. All right. And so you can see how you would divvy those up. All right. So title slide. Your abstract is going to be that paragraph summary. You're going to give bullet points about the entrepreneur themselves, the timeline that we created in milestone 2. Give a brief summary or illustrate how the technology solves that problem. We'll talk about the obstacles and resolution, life before and after, some of the competition, where they are today, and then we're excited. You will get that from slide or from milestone number 3. Again, one person is going to submit this. It's going to be in a PPTX and you will submit that. All right. Again, this rubric is a little more detailed, right? Because I'm looking for all of these elements, right? And then finally, again, once you complete this, I want to know what your contributions were for creating this particular milestone, right? You are given 2 weeks to work on this, right? So again, make sure you work together, you find time to do this. And then at the very, very end, I'm asking you to write a reflection on the experience of working with a team. All right, so you get an idea is you'll download this file and then you can fill in the blanks and submit, save, and upload that file. All right, I know this is a pretty long video. I don't want to apologize for its length only because I think it's important for me to go over this with you. If you have any questions, please remember to ask early. And good luck. And this should be, I hope a fun experience. All right. Thank you guys.